I think we're going live now. Okay.
Chakras.
Chakras. Welcome to the Sacral Chakra Chat live experience. Woo! We are back continuing this series together. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. One note, I'm in a new location coming to you from New Zealand. The Wi-Fi does not appear to be as strong. So if I get stuck, just refresh the page and it should come back with a better connection. So just refresh the page if at any time I get stuck, the video or the audio. So welcome to the live Chakra Chat. All right. Hey, Cherise. Hi, everyone. Hi, Mindy. If you haven't already said in the comments, please tell us where you are tuning in from. We have such an international community. I'm with Myers now. He just got here with our sailboat. So he is decompressing from the month-long journey from Tonga to New Zealand. And we've rented a little Airbnb to kind of get off the boat and have a little bit of normalcy for a moment. Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you for writing where you're tuning in from. So today we are focusing on the sacral chakra or svadhisthana. And last week we focused on the root chakra. If you haven't watched the root chakra live chat, please go back and watch that this week. It will help you have a better sense, a greater awareness of the system as a whole, especially as we continue to climb to the crown chakra, Sahasrara. All right, so let's dive straight in. The sacral chakra is also called svadhisthana. That translates to one's own place. And the location is your lower abdomen or your pelvis or your hips and your genitals, also your reproductive organs. And it's so funny that I'm presenting this live series today because I just got my period last night. So it's very aligning that we're working with the sacral chakra. The element is water, very, very important to note. The color is orange. The activity is feeling. The identification to self is self-gratification, because this one has a lot to do with pleasure. This is your emotional identity. This is your right to feel. So every chakra has a right. Every chakra has all of the basic information I'm telling you right now, okay? The demon of this chakra or the wound of this chakra is guilt. So this is a big one, especially for all the women tuning in. Mindy, I think you said me too, LOL. You're right on time. How many people in the comments, if you feel comfortable enough sharing, are currently on your monthly cycle as well? I always just wonder how many of us women are syncing up. I wonder how many of us are on our cycle. Watching and tuning into and talking about this energetic center at the same time. Now, the purpose of the svadhisthana chakra is emotional well-being and a healthy sexuality or a healthy relationship with sex and pleasure. And the goals are fluidity, flow, flexibility, emotional maturity, being able to feel and respond to our emotions, receptivity, intimacy, pleasure, play, and fun. Gosh, babe, I feel like we could set a light up right here, but I think it's okay. I don't know. You can look at this. I might have Myers set up a light for us.
Keep going.
Okay, so tell me in the comments. Let's see here, though. We got a few saying, yes. I'm currently on my monthly cycle, just started today. My sacral chakra is blocked. Thomas, you don't have to leave at all. You can totally be here. You also have a sacral chakra. You also have genitals and a pelvis, which is where this energetic center resides. So you don't need to leave. Men are absolutely welcome. Okay, so I want to know in the comments, because the demon of the sacral chakra is guilt. So how many of you suffer from guilt in a way that guilt keeps you from being in denial of your emotions and then your emotions not being able to communicate to you, right? So you feel guilty about a certain scenario, and because the guilt overrides the emotions, you then don't act on the emotions or you don't listen to them. The emotions basically are deadened because guilt is the superior emotion that's happening here. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, so I have a few coming in. Yeah, guilt is a really difficult one. And a lot of times guilt can override whatever. Yeah, that's good, babe. Yeah, wait, okay. Yeah.
Too yellow?
No. Okay. All right. My husband is here, so he can help me with all of the technology again, like lighting. So, this is a very often scenario that we feel guilt, which is the wound of the sacral chakra, which then causes us to override our emotions and act upon them, even though our emotions are highly intelligent and they have incredible wisdom built into them, right? Okay. Christy, you said you used to, but boundary work is helping. Yeah. Okay, Jen, for sure. Guilt and shame equals anxiety that can be paralyzing, right? Rhiannon said, thanks, Myers. Ashley said, sometimes. Cherie said, hi, Myers. Anne said, often. Jasmine said, yes. Okay, yeah. This is like not brain, like rocket science. This is very, very common. So those were the basics. And if you just started tuning in and you missed the basics of the svadhisthana chakra, you can always rewind. But I want to keep going because I've been terrible about honoring and valuing our time together and sticking within my 30-minute quota. So let's get into the pillars of the sacral chakra. So number one, we're working with duality because we just went from the root chakra and we only had one energetic center to focus on. And now we've climbed up a notch and we have two. So by nature, introducing two energetic centers now creates duality. And the chakras work through a polaric system. So you have the root chakra, that's a yang energy, it's masculine and it's an earth element. And then you've got the sacral chakra, which is a yin energy, and the element's water. They couldn't be more opposite. And so that opposite, that scenario of opposites or polarities is what's creating duality here. And Anna Day Judith teaches in her books that duality creates separation, and then separation naturally in us as human beings wants to pull us towards completion. It wants to pull us back towards connection. And so when that happens, when we experience separation or duality, we are naturally inclined to come back to the core, back to the center, back to the middle, right? Bring us back into balance. That's our natural inclination. And to do that, we have to take action or create change, right? So if two things are separated and we want to bring them closer together, the only way to do that is to move them closer, or change has to happen. So Anadea says at the svadhisthana chakra, we are employing conscious change. So not just any change, consciously driven change. Okay. So the duality part is really important. And the chakra system in general is root chakra yang, sacral chakra yin, solar plexus yang, heart yin, throat yang, third eye yin, and then the sahasrara at the top is all encompassing. And then within each energetic center as well, they each have a yin and yang component. So the whole system is super polaric. And you can imagine it within your body as these inner chambers, like we talked about in the intro chat, that has these figure eights of energy going around them, helping them to spin and the polaric energy to feed off one another. So every chakra has a polarity, right? But the most, I would say, pronounced polarity is within the sacral chakra. Of all the chakras, the sacral chakra is the most pronounced between the masculine and the feminine, and those two components working off one another. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Thomas, you said you feel guilt when you have to say no and you can't help you. You say, no, I can't help you. I turn into myself. Yeah, okay, but you're learning to set boundaries as well. Boundaries are so important. And remember, we talked about at the sacral chakra, at the root chakra level, setting boundaries. So if we set those boundaries at the root chakra level and we are maintaining them, then we get to the sacral chakra with a little bit more oomph and foundation so that we can ward off guilt, right? But we're learning. This is a process right now. Okay, so let's go back to the pillars. So, first and foremost, the first pillar I want to talk about is sensations, feelings, and emotions. The sacral chakra is your emotional epicenter. And I'm sure you've heard this, that emotions are energy in motion. So it's very congruent that the sacral chakra element is water. Water is always moving, it's always flowing. It doesn't matter if there is a log that is damming up the stream, the water will find a way to move and to move around it, right? That log will not stop the flow of water. And that's a very important lesson for us with the sacral chakra. But we want to think about our emotions being as energy in motion, and that is their natural state. They want to move. So, this energetic center is an invitation to turn inward and develop emotional maturity, right? So then we can become our own master of what we're sensing, decode our emotions' wisdom, which then can inform our actions. But if guilt is overriding the communication that's happening from our emotions, we can't parcel out the innate wisdom to inform our actions because, like, guilt is laying on top of the emotion, right? And we're kind of in denial. We don't want to hear our emotions. We don't want to listen to them. We don't want the innate wisdom. And so then we don't take actions in alignment with our emotions. How many times, tell me in the comments, you guys, have you been in a situation where your emotional body, your emotional identity, your sacral chakra is literally screaming at you one thing, but then you're doing something else, right? Like, let's say you are in a workspace environment and you're really uncomfortable with something that you're a part of, or you're in a conversation with someone that's making you really uncomfortable, and you feel this inner like urge to either speak out or walk away, but you just sit there and take it and you stay in the conversation. This could be in any situation, not just a workspace environment. But how many times have we been caught in that scenario where our emotions are giving us these intelligent cues and we're just sitting there like, well, I don't know, I'm not going to listen. I'm just going to take this. And it's not about lashing out either, which is something that is a weakness of mine. It's about developing emotional maturity. So, a really healthy relationship with your emotions. Okay. And again, going back to the root chakra, boundaries, right? Like, what am I going to? What am I going to allow? And can I develop a sense of maturity around that allowance and say, this conversation isn't for me? Or how can I say, I'm not comfortable with the situation? And Christy, you're in the comments, and Christy's in our Body, Mind, Soul Studio membership community. And she just shared a really epic story about her holding her boundaries around the holidays and with her family. And I'm so proud of you, Christy. And she used the root chakra principles so that she doesn't have to get into her family time and feel guilty, right? So, Christy, way to go. I think you're still on here. Okay, so you guys understand that, right? You get that pillar. The first one, sensations, feelings, and emotions. And it works like that too. So you first sense something, right? It's like a very small sensation, which turns into a feeling, and then it turns into an emotion. And that emotion is then dictating our behaviors and actions. So it's this chain reaction, it's this chain of events that's happening from this very small sensation, right? Okay, let's see here. Yes, yes. Tammy, you're over there taking up space on your mat and playing it big. Go, girl. Jan, you said when you were younger, definitely, but as you got older, you try not to. That is awesome. Yes. I do think, Jan, like you're talking about, as we get older, we do develop emotional maturity more and more, and we feel much more confident in saying, I'm going to listen to this emotion and not the guilt that surrounds it. Okay, so the next pillar, pillar number 2, is fluidity, flow, or flexibility. And this goes back to that analogy of the log being in the stream, and the water doesn't just say, oh, well, I'm not going to keep flowing. I'm not going to keep moving along. It finds a way to move. It might not be the most efficient or effective way, but the water still moves, right? The water never stops in the river or the ocean. So, this pillar, fluidity, flexibility, or flow, is a reminder to not become attached or fixated to expectations or your made up outcomes, to operate like water would, to keep flowing. This is so important because, especially if you're someone like me who's hyper focused on creating and achieving your dreams and living your best journey, that means that, of course, you have expectations. Of course, you have outcomes that you want to meet. But there's still this huge factor called life. And in the 8 limbs of yoga, specifically within the second limb of yoga called the niyamas, we have this niyama called Ishvara Pranidhana. And it really means surrender to God, or to surrender your actions to God, to say, I did my best and now I have to leave the rest. And so, for those of you who are in the studio and you did that month with me of Kriya Yoga and the 8 limbs of yoga, or if you're familiar with the 8 limbs of yoga, this is a review for you. But remembering that we can do our best work, right? And we can put our best foot forward. But at a certain point, we have to just say, okay, enough is enough. And I have to let go of fixating to the outcome or the expectations and not attach myself either, right? Which is another yogic principle, non attachment. So we want to remember this. Also, we want to remember this because life is not going to always unfold as we planned it. Like, can I get an amen in the comments if you've had issues in your life that have not unfolded as you planned? Like, you could put one of those clapping emojis here. And you've had to reroute, right? So the sacral chakra is all about allowing ourselves to be fluid and flexible with life's ever-changing circumstances, because change is the only constant in the universe, and we have to learn how to embrace it more and more if we really want to get the most out of this one opportunity here, right? There's just no way we're going to get the most out of our opportunity here on this planet if we are constantly fixated and attached to controlling everything, right? We're always going to be let down. We're always going to be upset. Okay. So this pillar, fluidity, flow, flexibility, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of hand claps coming on the comments, is all about, let's see what I wrote here. It's a lesson in non-resistance. It is a lesson to ride the river of your journey. And Anna Dea talks a lot about this in the sacral chakra and some of her books, that you want to imagine your life as this flowing river and you're riding down it, and the energy of your life is helping you ride that current. And sure, you're going to hit some areas where the river's dammed up and you're going to have to navigate around those blocks to the best of your ability. But remembering this lesson, this pillar, fluidity, flexibility, flow, is super important, from the very minutia of our days when something doesn't go as planned to the very large things that can happen to us, right? So this is such a great lesson. Okay, pillar number 3, pleasure and playfulness. This is a really good one, guys. So the sacral chakra is about having fun. It's about entertaining your inner child. Your inner child wants pleasure and play. And pleasure is basically one of the greatest motivators for humankind. It's either on the scale of pain, on the scale of humans, we're trying to stay away from pain and go towards pleasure, right? So those are our greatest motivators: avoiding pain and seeking and experience pleasure. So the sacral chakra is all about including your inner child in the conversation. This helps to combat feelings of seriousness or stuckness, especially when we're working towards creating and achieving something specific, right? It acts like a salve or an ointment or a balm to whatever it is we're doing. It also just helps the brain take a break from all the thoughts that are streaming in, and creates this internal space. And then we can come back to whatever it is. Okay, I'm getting hot now, you guys. It's chilly here in the morning, but as I'm talking, okay, as we work towards something that's of importance to us, which could be something like, I'm moving my home right now, so I'm packing everything up in my house. Like, that's not really a fun thing to do, right? In its basic nature. But if you can go out and have some fun with yourself or your children, then come back to packing, it could be a whole new experience. For me, working on the JJ, when I'm deep in a creative project, and creative projects also have lots of administrative work that go into them that are not fun in the least bit. When I get out and go for a walk or do a yoga class, or Myers and I just bought inflatable stand-up paddle boards, we've gone for 2 paddles. Immediately that creates internal space, which helps me come back to the project with so much more awareness and focus, and also new ideas, right? So the sacral chakra is all about fun, pleasure, and play. And when I say pleasure, because the sacral chakra is about sexuality, I'm just not going to get into it as much here on this live because I don't want to offer like a blanket statement of advice. I don't feel like I have any credentials to be talking about sex. But pleasure, underneath the category of pleasure, is going to come your sexuality. And this is important because sexuality is a form of fun and play and pleasure. So honoring that as an adult in your relationships and making space for that. And Anna Dea also talks about in her book being really specific. So identifying, what do you really need when it comes to pleasure? Like, a little bit over there. Can you increase the pressure over here? Oh, I like that more there. Being really specific with what you need in regards to your pleasure and whoever it is that you're enjoying your pleasure with. It might be yourself or someone else. And it also doesn't need to be about sex either. Your pleasure could easily be about going on a vacation. That's definitely something fun to do as an adult, or it could be meeting up with a new group of people or meeting up with your girlfriends. It could be going and playing football. Thomas, for our man on here, I don't want to stereotype that you play football, but I also don't want to only talk about girlfriends. So it could be anything that is fun for you. It could also be a pedicure. That's really fun for me. So prioritizing pleasure and playfulness is so important to sacral chakra so that the river of your journey can keep flowing as effortlessly as possible, right? Okay, so the last pillar I want to talk about here is femininity and receiving. So because guilt is the demon or the wound here, guilt can definitely keep us from the pillar we just spoke about, pleasure, playfulness, and fun. But it can also keep us from receiving, right? So it can keep us from allowing ourselves to receive any of that. And because the masculine energy is the predominant energy in our culture today, masculine energy is yang energy, it's creative energy. I know for me, because I have a masculine personality, it's very hard for me to honor the yin or the feminine side of my being. And men, you have the yang and the yin too. So this is really troublesome for many women. We have a really difficult time being the yin, receiving, and really sinking into our feminine nature and making space for that, right? The sensuality of it, the self-care, like the deep self-care, right? The nurturance. You can think of it, if you're a mother, how you innately nurture others is kind of the feminine energy we're looking for here, this mothering of ourselves and really taking care of ourselves, and also tapping into the more sensual side of femininity. So this is a big one too. And for women who are currently still bleeding and on their cycle, which we have quite a few on here, a great way to get in touch with your femininity is to go to learn about and use your own cycle as a way to connect with the moon. And even if you don't connect with the moon, just learning more about your cycle and the 4 phases of your cycle and how your energy shifts and moves around within a 28-day roundabout time period, and how that affects you energetically, and how you can more so honor that part of you, which is very feminine in nature, right? So tell me, let's see here in the comments, we have 4 pillars. Which of these 4 pillars feels most misaligned to you, like it needs an energetic tune-up? And I will restate them. So pillar number 1 was emotional maturity. So that's pillar number 1, being able to sense, feel, and emote. So let your emotions be energy and motion. Pillar number 2 is non-attachment or surrendering and saying you did your best, which is fluidity, flexibility, and flow. Pillar number 3 is pleasure and playfulness. And pillar number 4 is femininity and receiving. So of those 4, how do you guys feel about which one is most misaligned for you? Like it just needs that energetic tune-up. And I'm going to take a sip of water or coffee as you guys tune in and tell me. Alex, how do you connect to your femininity after menopause? Yeah, great question. So a great way is to still honor the moon cycle. So inside my membership community, we did a 4-week lunar cycle program, but I also have a blog post. If you go on my website, if you type in moon, you'll probably find it. And there's these 4 distinct cycles to the lunar cycle, and you can still very much so receive the medicine of the moon, which is what a woman who's bleeding would do. They would just sync it up with their cycle instead of the moon, because not everyone's who's bleeding, their cycle doesn't connect with the moon. Mine doesn't, at least. So you can use the moon as a way to honor your femininity in that way, but you can also just find ways that you feel feminine, right? So let's see, Kathy, 3 and 4, Christina, all of them. Kirsten, non-attachment 2. Mindy, you need a tune-up. Thomas, you need to nurture yourself, right? Oh my gosh, I could so see that for a man needing to nurture himself. Let's see, Marina, emotional connection, suppressing your emotions about families. Yeah, but getting along is what breaks you apart. Amit, what are the chakras? Go back to the intro chakra chat on my YouTube channel. Tammy, you have to run, but we'll catch up later. Great. Laura, non-attachment. Okay, really great. Thank you guys. So let's get into suggested practices, and then we'll just have a final moment at the end to calm our energy and integrate everything we spoke about. So suggested practices. You guys have sticky notes, right? Okay, so sticky notes are super great. Let's see here. You can write yourself permission slips to combat feeling guilty. So every morning you could write yourself a permission slip to feel this, right? I give myself permission to feel this way. I give myself permission to have fun. I give myself permission to receive. I give myself permission to experience pleasure, to play. I give myself permission to not attach. And you could keep these sticky notes wherever are best for you, right? Keep them with you, put them on your fridge, put them on your computer, put it in your car, put it somewhere that you see on a day-to-day basis, okay? So write yourself permission slips to combat the wound or the demon of the sacral chakra, which is guilt. Spend more time in water, a bathtub, a hot tub, a pool, a lake, an ocean. Come sailing with us on Alfie. Spend more time in water, okay? The element here is water. Do pelvic work, right? So do work around your pelvis. So either strengthening or soothing, right? So choosing what you might need. I'm going to recommend both, but if you tend to be hypermobile, probably more strengthening. If you're very strong, probably a little bit more soothing and stretching, okay? Let's see here. Prioritize fun. Schedule it in. So Myers is nicknamed in our relationship the fun ambassador. So he's allowed to pull the fun card whenever I'm stuck, or not even stuck. Like yesterday morning, we were getting ready to come to this Airbnb, and I was running around like a chicken, like, we have so many things to do. I can't stop for one moment. And we just bought these stand-up paddle boards, and he said, no, let's go for a paddle. And so we went out for 30, 40 minutes, and it was so great. And I'm so happy we did that. So if you have a hard time prioritizing fun like I do, please give someone the role of fun ambassador in your life, okay? Suggested practices, meet your emotions. Start to develop that emotional maturity and let yourself feel. And if you don't feel comfortable with letting yourself feel publicly or outwardly, this is the best place for a journal, like the cheapest form of therapy. Get your journal out and allow yourself to feel through your words, because a lot of our emotions can be really scary and we don't really want to reveal them to anyone in the moment that they're happening. And so a journal is a really good place to develop awareness of them and also move through them before you're emoting them outwards into the world, right? So a journal, cheapest form of therapy, great way to develop emotional maturity. For those of you who are familiar with pranayama, yogic breathing exercises, Nadi Shodhana is a really great breath work here, or alternate nostril breath, because it's balancing the feminine, masculine. It's super calming. It's really a great practice to nurture yourself, bring yourself back into a state of homeostasis or equilibrium. So Nadi Shodhana, you guys know that one. So we block off one. Bum, bum, bum. I have a video on my YouTube channel doing this breath work for those of you who know it. Really, really great to use it in your daily practice if you're focusing on your sacral chakra. Supta Baddha Konasana. You guys know that restorative yoga pose. So you're lying back and you're in butterfly pose. I really recommend it with blocks underneath the knees and a nice pillow underneath your neck. If you're having a hard time receiving, right? Like Supta Baddha Konasana is like, whew, I'm open to the world. Your legs are wide open. It's super vulnerable, right? So allowing yourself to be super supported with yoga props, but staying in Supta Baddha Konasana for 5 or 10 minutes and really allowing yourself to receive. Okay. That's a great way to honor the yin or the feminine component of this energetic center. And then lastly, carving out time to strengthen your sexual relations. So really not putting that to the back burner, which can become really easy. So carving out time to know that it is important, even if it's with yourself, right? It could be with yourself or others or both, yourself and others. I just want to say my favorite way to do it by myself is in the shower with a shower head, right? We're using the water element. we're in the shower. And it's just a great tool. So that could be a great way to reconnect. So let's talk about mantras real quick. And then we're going to get into the breath work. So you might want to write these as I'm saying this really quick. Someone said, how about standing in the rain? Yeah, absolutely. Like anything that is water involved is a beautiful thing to do. Okay, so some mantras, and you might want to write these down. However, they are in the description of this YouTube live. Number 1, I believe in my needs, right? Because guilt oftentimes trumps our needs. So I believe in my needs. Joe, I love your comment. Pleasure feeds my energy. I choose to receive. My feelings are valid. So I'm going to repeat those one more time, those 4 mantras that you could work with here. I believe in my needs. Pleasure feeds my energy. I choose to receive. And my feelings are valid. Okay? And those are in the comments below or in the description below. Okay, so wow, I'm doing much better on time today. Let's get into our breath work. So please, if you're not already in a comfortable seated posture with your spine lengthened, please bring yourself into a seated posture. This is not best done standing. So if you are standing, if you could take a moment to take a seat, come into a comfortable posture where you feel supported, but you can also lengthen your spine. And if you're on the live, don't drop off now. Like this is the best part, okay? This is where we integrate all the words I just said out loud to you. Bring your hands to your lower abdomen, your womb, and rest your hands over your womb. And if you feel safe to do so, please close down your eyes and bring your awareness into your lower abdomen, into your svadhisthana chakra. So awareness at your womb space, your lower abdomen, you're beginning to sense your breath. And visualize your lower abdomen, your sacral chakra, as a basin. A basin that holds life-sustaining fluids. Fluids that are needed to nourish your body, mind, soul system. Fluids that are highly intelligent, that sense your every experience. Fluids that provide meaningful feedback about your internal and external environment. Fluids that flow with grace and ease through every crevice of your being. Fluids that can be both soft and receptive, that can change and adapt without attachment. Fluids that believe in their needs and claim them as necessary. These fluids are the waters of your svadhisthana chakra. Tune into those fluids right now. And now, using the power of your breath, visualize your inhale awakening and activating your svadhisthana chakra, and your exhale breath aligning your svadhisthana chakra, bringing it back into the midline. So your inhale breath awakens and activates. Your exhale breath aligns and integrates. And I want you to continue this breath pattern, this visualization for 7 more breaths with your hands resting atop your womb and your eyes closed down. Inhaling to awaken and activate, exhaling to align and integrate. 7 breaths here. Last breath. Stay where you are, eyes closed. And if you'd like, you can repeat this out loud or silently with me. Om Namo Svadhisthana. I call in the creative consciousness of my sacral chakra. This is my right to feel. And when you feel ready, I want to invite you back into the physical space. You can open your eyes. You might want to keep your hands on your womb, especially if you're like me and you're in those first few days of flow. But my final question here together today as a collective is, if you weren't living with guilt, what would you do right now? If you weren't living with guilt or operating beneath guilt, what would you do right now? What would you change? Remember, change is part of the sacral chakra because we're experiencing duality. So tell me in the comments before we sign off, if you weren't letting guilt be the director, what would you do differently in your life today? Hannah, you just did that breath work in the bathtub. Oh, girl, that's awesome. Cherise, thanks so much for being here. Yes, Antoinette, you love my honesty about the shower. The shower head is so great, right? Okay, Kelly, you'd be out more with friends. Thank you so much for sharing. Cherise, you'd spend more time with yourself. Michelle, you'd spend more time on your own health. Heather, you would honor your needs over others' needs. Thank you so much for sharing. Doe, express my emotions more clearly. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Karen, I would feed my body what I need. Yeah, okay. Marina, I would speak what is my heart to my family. Ariana, I wouldn't feel guilty enjoying life. Susan, you would express yourself more. Thank you guys so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. Rhiannon, you'd be more willing to put yourself first. Yes, yes. So notice everyone who's commenting how similar we are. This is what I love about live gatherings is everyone shows up so vulnerably and we share so courageously, and we also realize we are not alone in our humanity. Amit, you would think clearly. Lynn, you would delve more into your mind, body, spiritual work. Yes, Christy, more creativity, less practicality. Kathy, express my emotions more freely. Jen, let go of the constant feelings of needing to apologize. That one's really good. Awesome. Ashley, speak up more, be more authentic. Yes. Thank you guys. Keep the comments coming in because it helps us feel less alone. So next week, we're following this chat up with the solar plexus chakra chat. We're going to come up an energetic notch to the upper abdomen. This is such a cool energetic center. It has so many built-in lessons, especially for modern day society and how it is becoming more and more in excess for us, both excess and deficiency. So next week, Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be meeting to talk about the solar plexus chakra. Remember, this week, please read, if you're using any of your books, please read about the sacral chakra, or if you already read about the solar plexus chakra, and use any of the sacral chakra classes that I have in the description below to supplement this experience together. Let's see. I want to read a few more yours. Maureen, I would ask for help when you need it. Laura, you would not hold your feelings. And Kelly, be more open about spirituality. Yes. Okay. Cherie says for everyone, the 4 agreements is a must read. She thinks it would help in this area. Julie, you go off and travel the world until I'm done instead of feeling like I have to conform to working. Annette, you'd play your drum with more freedom from others' opinions, right? There are so many things we all want to do if guilt wasn't standing in the way. So this week, please schedule something fun into your world, right? Please make sure you're prioritizing pleasure and play in some form. Put it in your calendar. For most of you tuning in from the rest of the world, you're on Sundays. You're at the beginning of the week. Make that a priority this week, okay? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And lastly, on the docket, if you want to combine the work we are doing with your yoga practice with transformative travel, we've got 4 spots left on our upcoming Costa Rica retreat, March 1st through the 7th. It is a chakra yoga retreat. We're specifically using the system to guide us through our experience together in the jungle. Some of the girls on here have been to that retreat. So that information is also in the description below. You can also DM me on Instagram. I'm here to answer your questions about that retreat experience. All right. Love you guys so much. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. And I'll meet you back here next Sunday, and we will continue this live chakra chat series. Mwah.